During the struggle for its independence from the French, Algeria gained powerful allies, such as the Soviet Union. So it should not be surprising that the Algerian army has been equipped primarily with Soviet military equipment from the 1960s onward. This included a substantial number of armored vehicles and tanks. Some of the hardware delivered in this era has remained in service and is seemingly well appreciated even up to this day, most notably the T-55. This could not be said for the later T-62, which was supplied in the late 1970s. Due to a troublesome history, it was largely overshadowed by the tanks that came before and after it. However, in recent years, attempts were made after decades in service to finally improve the combat effectiveness of the aging T-62 by upgrading it with the Russian Berezhok turret. France's colonization of the territory of modern-day Algeria began in 1830. Naturally, resistance to colonization appeared in time and flared into numerous revolts. In October 1954, the National Liberation Front was founded as a pro-independence group, along with its military armed forces, the National Liberation Army. The National Liberation Front played a central role in leading the resistance against French rule, ultimately culminating in Algeria gaining independence in July 1962 after 8 years of a long, bloody war. France's colonial war had been widely unpopular, even among Western countries. In contrast, the National Liberation Front had ample foreign support, both from fellow Arab states which had shut off their former colonial rulers and other powers, perhaps most significantly the Soviet Union and the Eastern Bloc. This equipped the National Liberation Army with weapons through a variety of channels during their guerrilla struggle against the French. Once in control of the country, the National Liberation Front implemented policies somewhat comparable to those in the USSR. The Algerian government was by no means communist, even outlawing and repressing some communist organizations, but supported a form of Arab socialism that generally clashed with the West. As such, it is not surprising that the Algerian army received open large-scale weapons and vehicle deliveries from the Soviet Union and Allied states. This included some 300 T-62s that were purchased in the late 1970s. The T-62 did not replace the older T-54 or T-55, which remained in service. Despite being a newer design, Algerian tankers preferred the older tank. The unpopularity of the T-62 in Algeria appears to have been such that in past years there was a persistent rumor that the vast majority of the fleet was exchanged with the Soviet Union for modernized T-55s in the early 1980s. These claims have largely been disproven by confirmation that T-62s were still in service in some numbers up to this day. It remains true, however, that the older T-54, T-55 appear to have received much more attention than their theoretical successor, even with acquisitions of newer tanks, such as the T-72 and T-90SA. The T-55s remain in service as fire support vehicles with mechanized infantry units. These received upgraded kits to further increase their combat effectiveness in the form of ERA armor protection, better fire control systems, the ability to fire gun-launched anti-tank missiles, and the installation of a laser rangefinder. In contrast, the T-62 never received such extensive attempts to modernize them with better equipment, even though such upgrades were available on the market. A smaller number of the T-62s were passed onto the Polisario front at an unclear date, and the group's equipment is overwhelmingly sourced from Algeria. While its most common tank has always been the T-54, T-55, some T-62s have also been spotted in its service. The T-62 service within the Algerian army is rather poorly documented. A regiment of up to 100 tanks operated in Ain Besam in 1990s before they relocated in 1997. Some T-62s may have seen service during the Algerian Civil War, which raged on from 1991 to 2002. This was the consequence of a military coup launched to prevent what seemed like the imminent victory of an Islamist coalition, the Islamic Salvation Front, against the ruling National Liberation Front party in the presidential elections. However, the war largely had a counterinsurgency nature, and as such, mostly involved lighter vehicles, with the most commonly seen tanks being the T-55s. One place where Algerian T-62s have typically been seen is in Algeria's Central Logistical Base, which was founded in 1975. It comprises many workshops and has become the largest armored fighting vehicle maintenance upgrade and to an extent even production plant in Algeria, employing around 2,500 people in 2021. This base was extensively modernized between 1987 and 1994, reaching its current status as a publicly owned industrial and commercial company in 2009. T-62s have been fairly consistently spotted within its facilities, and it appears that over time several upgrades from the T-55s trickled down onto some T-62s. A limited number of vehicles were spotted fitted with a similar laser rangefinder or a second infrared spotlight. However, it does not appear Algerian T-62s have ever been fitted with a Contact 1 reactive armor, nor is it likely that the fire control system had been upgraded to the same extent. By the 2000s, the Algerian T-62s were helplessly outdated and rarely used. They had not received the same updates as the T-55s, while also vastly inferior compared to the T-72s and the T-90s that were in service. Around the same time, Algeria was still a massive customer of Russian gear. In the 2010s, they purchased between 120 to 300 BMP-T Terminator T-72-based fire support vehicles, which were delivered in 2020. Thanks to this, the Algerians gained some experience with the concept of a fire support vehicle based on the hull of a tank. With this, a potential solution to reusing the existing T-62 presented itself. As improving and maintaining the 115mm main armament was seen as financially unviable in the late 2010s, the decision was made to modernize the T-62 fleet by replacing their turrets with Berezhok turret. While the conversion was first reported in late August 2021, the whole project was covered in a veil of secrecy, and not much is known about it. While not clear if it's an official name, this conversion is often referred to as BMP-T-62. The Berezhok turret was first unveiled in 2006 by Russia to increase the combat effectiveness of the BMP-2. It can generally be considered a modern IFV turret. As a result of its BMP-2 lineage, it appears they have kept the same modest armor protection, with 20mm to the front and front sights and 10mm to the rear. Notably, the commander has a rotating cupola, though it is meagerly fitted with the original periscopes. The main armament consists of a 30mm autocannon with a dual feed system. There is a digital display showing the number of shells still available in the turret, as well as a switch allowing for a quick change in the type of ammunition fired. The autocannon has two dedicated fire rates, a slow one at 200 rounds per minute and a quicker one at 550 rounds per minute. The turret allows for a high elevation of plus 60 degrees, which coupled with a dedicated high elevation sight, makes the Tu-42 a more dangerous threat to helicopters than what would be expected from a ground vehicle. The total number of shells carried inside the turret is 300. For use against light fortifications, infantry, soft-skinned vehicles, and other unarmored targets, the Tu-42 can fire the 3 UOF-8 high-explosive incendiary shells. In high-explosive belts, it is complemented by the 3 UOR-6. This shell forsakes most of the explosive charge to mount a very large tracer. Fired at the same muzzle velocity of 980 meters per second, it is used for fire correction purposes. For armor-piercing duties, two types of shells exist. The older 3 UBR-6 is a fairly classic armor-piercing shell with a core of hardened structural steel. It features a tracer that burns for 3.5 seconds after being fired and has a muzzle velocity of 970 meters per second. Its penetration values against rolled homogeneous armor (RHA) at an angle of 60 degrees are 29mm at 700 meters and 14mm at 1500 meters. These are fairly mediocre performances, able to defeat little more than light armored vehicle in the vast majority of cases. A more modern armor-piercing shell exists in the form of the 3 UBR-8, an armor-piercing discarding sabot APTS shell with a tracer. Fired at a muzzle velocity of 1120 meters per second, this shell seems to penetrate at the same angle of 60 degrees, 35mm at 1000 meters, and 25mm at 1500 meters of RHA armor. The 2A42 is supplemented by a coaxial 7.62mm machine gun. It appears it is fed by a single 2,000 round belt. The turret features a ballistic computer and automatic target tracker, making acquisition and precise targeting much easier. It also provides thermal sights and a 2-axis stabilizer. In addition to the BKTM, another anti-infantry secondary weapon is fitted in the form of the AGS-30M automatic grenade launcher. It is mounted to the rear of the turret, firing over the roof, and is centrally mounted. This automatic grenade launcher is fed by 29 round belts, with the projectiles used being 30mm grenades. The last weapon system of the Berezhok is its complement of 9 M133 Cornet missiles. The turret features 4 launchers, 2 on each side of the turret. The Cornet uses semi-automatic beam riding guidance, meaning the missile is aimed using a laser beam aimed at the target from the firing vehicle. The 9 M133-1 missile was rated for around 1100 to 1200mm rolled homogeneous armor penetration on average, and the use of a tandem heat warhead reduced the protection offered by ERA against it. Since then, the newer 9 M133-2 or Cornet EM has a stated armor penetration of 1100 to 1300mm and a longer effective range of up to 8000 meter. The large caliber of the Cornet also allowed for other uses than merely anti-tank. This manifested with the 9 M133F-1 missile, which instead of an armor-piercing shaped charge contains a thermobaric warhead equivalent to 10 kg of TNT and provides significant incendiary effects. Both the original 9M133-1 and thermobaric 9M133-F missiles have a maximum flight speed of 250 meters per second and an effective range of 100 to 5,500 meters. To fit the Berezhok turret inside the T-60 hull, some modifications were needed. The most important change concerned the turret ring. The Berezhok had a smaller turret ring diameter of 1,740 mm, while the T-62 had a 2,245mm turret ring. The solution to this problem was to create an armored collar with a reduced diameter. As a consequence, though, it would likely make the turret sit higher. To fulfill a heavy fire support role similar to a BMP-T, some changes such as the use of explosive reactive armor would have aided in the vehicle being able to be adequately protected against close enemy fire. However, none seem to have been mounted thus far. On July 2, 2022, footage of completed Berezhok turret conversions appeared for the first time. Several vehicles painted in a santan color were spotted in footage shared on the internet. The vehicles were taking part in rehearsals for a military parade on July 5th, celebrating 60 years of Algeria's independence. The vehicle's appearance matches what could have been expected from earlier views of the conversion during its assembly. The front of the T-62 hull received few changes, with the same configuration of the lights and no form of up-armoring whatsoever. The same can be said for the Berezhok turret, which confirms that the vehicle's protection indeed remains very limited. It is currently unclear how many such vehicles will be built, but they offer a cheap and effective upgrade solution for a still viable chassis. This concludes our video on the Algerian T-62 and its attempt to modernize it by increasing its firepower with modern weapon systems. Why did the Algerians have such a bad opinion about this tank? And will the latest upgrade variant have any future potential? What other turret do you think they should have fitted to the T-62 hull? Share your opinions in the comment section. If you haven't done so already, we invite you to subscribe to stay updated on future content. If you'd like to contribute further, consider supporting us on Patreon or PayPal. Your contributions help us create more engaging videos. Until next time, stay focused and stay tuned.